Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of Energy Transformation Week. My name is Tara Taglienti, and I am here with the lovely, amazing, I'm really proud to call this person my friend. I'm here with Glenyce Hughes. She is an Access Conscious facilitator and the founder of As If by Magic. And let me tell you, Glenyce lives her life very as exactly in that sentence, like as if by magic. I swear, I watch her create things and in the world and just travel the world and create this amazing life and like really cool things. And even when we're in person with each other, just really cool stuff happens. Just like, so, I would like to introduce you, Glenyce, and if you could just, tell everybody, like, hello, who you are, and what is your mission in the world.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Tara. I am also very proud to call you a friend, and we seem to get together in rather interesting places, such as New York and Florida, and who the heck knows where next.
Yeah.
And it's always so life-changing for me just to be with you, and I'm so grateful that you've put this series together and given us a chance to chat. Really just chat. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I've been, my background actually is psychiatric nursing. Not a lot of people know that anymore because it's been a long time, but that's what I initially studied. And then I went and actually took a hairdressing class. So I did that for a little bit and thought, that's crazy, man. I know, right? And then in 2002, I took a Reiki class, which for anybody who isn't familiar, it's an energy healing modality. And prior to that, that was, I think I was 29 or something like that in that year. And prior to that, I knew nothing of the energy world at all. Like, I mean, nothing. And so I took that class just on an absolute whim, and it literally changed my entire life. It took me into kind of a whole new possibility. I got a sense of what I had always hoped to do with psychiatric nursing, but was never able to do because it really was just around medications with nursing.
Yeah.
So then when I got into Reiki, it was like invited me into so much more. And within 6 months, I started my business, and have been creating that ever since 2002. In the last 6 years, I've been studying with Access Consciousness, and that's where I've seen the greatest change. There was certainly great change prior to that, but in terms of consistent leaps and bounds and whole lifetimes of changes, it's been with the study of Access Consciousness.
That's awesome. And so it's so interesting to me that you studied, or you were a psychiatric nurse. I myself, like, I started off in the medical field as well. Like, I went to school and I was like, I want to be a pediatrician, and I actually went, and then I wanted to be a lab rat. I wanted to just work in the lab and stuff like that. And basically what it was I really cared about people. I just cared about people, and I wanted to turn that into a career. I wanted to be able to, I always thought, when I was in school, I always had the idea that, the medical field would be a natural fit for me because of how much I cared about people, and I could really I could really help people or whatever. When I got out into the field, I know, first of all, when I would go into a hospital environment, my anxiety, what I thought then was anxiety, would shoot through the roof, and I would be kind of almost petrified, but I would still power through it and keep doing my job. I started out, I was still in school, so I would do like telemetry tech and like unit secretary stuff. And I just found that a little bit of time in, I was like, I'm just gonna probably say something really like rebellious here in this. If this is going to be my life, I'm going to get in trouble, because there's no way that I could get around like all the rules and stuff that just made it almost impossible for me to care about the patients and the people the way that I just knew something else was possible in the way, in the way that I could care about people, and it wasn't able to be done in the confines of the way that the medical field was structured. Not even the stuff that no one really talks about, is like the high census, small amounts of time. You can't really get to everybody and give them that one-on-one nurturing. I'm taking up all this time here, but yeah, what do you think of all of that? Like, what is that's kind of like what had you kind of switch gears, or?
Yeah, it somewhat like that, except even prior to taking the Reiki class, Tara, I didn't actually know there was another possibility. I just thought, okay, I've got to try another field. So I'd worked many years with people with disabilities. So I was like, okay, you know what? When I was doing one of my practicums in the early 90s, I loved this prison that I worked in. And so my thinking back in 2002 was, let me get out of this part of this, which was working with people with disabilities, and let me get into working in a prison, because it would be exactly like it was before, which, you can imagine how much conclusion is in there. And so it really, luckily, it did not actually turn out. Luckily, there was no options for me to go into. There was a big, a lot of nurses were being laid off at the time. And so when I took the Reiki class, and it really invited me into a new possibility. And it wasn't even that I went and took the class and the next day I thought, oh, I'm going to start a business in this, because at the time I was like, this is really cool. I don't know what the heck it is, but it's really cool. But it was through just kind of using it and playing with it and actually getting results from, clients that were with me and or like, not, they weren't clients at the time, but friends or family that were kind of letting me be there, letting them be my guinea pig and stuff. So it was really just the invitation into kind of a slow walk into what else is possible, and what I've been able to see and change even in my own life along with clients is been so much greater than we could within the psychiatric nursing realm, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm for one and somebody that I'm really grateful that you found your path. And that's what this week is all about. Is I just wanted to find, I wanted to talk to all my friends and find out like what was their moment where they were just like, ooh, my life as it is now, I'm not going to be living that. What is it? The status quo lifestyle. Like, I'm going to Weirdville, no matter who's coming with me or who can hear me. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna live this. I'm gonna be me, essentially. What was it like for you coming into your gifts or expanding on your gifts, or like did you always notice that they were there and actualize them, or like that? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, no, I did not have the awareness. Are you able to hear me okay? They're vacuuming outside my hotel room.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So yeah, it was not there prior to that Reiki class. And in the Reiki class, I perceived it a little bit, like I could feel some tickles in my hands. I could feel a little bit of the energy and stuff. And then as I was using it more and more, it was just really, it just kind of became natural for me. But there was still a fairly long journey for me in choosing to kind of go down the weird road to being the psychiatric nurse. The logic was, well, you paid for all that schooling, and I even had a family member comment, hey, why don't you do that other stuff on the weekends and get a job that you'll end up with a pension as a nurse, and she was doing it from her version of caring for me. But there was a lot of people who really just thought it was kind of like, oh, she'll get over it. She'll read a few books and she'll get over it type of thing. And there were a couple conversations even between hubby and I around maybe we need to end the marriage, because I was, really going in one direction. And at the time, it wasn't a direction that he could even comprehend. Like, it was so far outside of his world that I remember him one time saying, probably the first time we had a real discussion about it, and he said, you know, it's like, he said, it's almost like you came home, and I don't know why he used this analogy, but he said, it's almost like you came home as a biker girl, and now you just want to be like out biking all the time. And, you know, and it was just, still to this day the most bizarre analogy he would use, but really in his world is you came home totally different. You know, because I mean, we've neither, like, just, you know, riding a motorbike's never been my thing. So all of a sudden it's like, now you're totally doing something different. And we talked about it, probably 2 really good conversations over probably a couple of years. And both I knew no matter what, I had to choose what worked for me, even though I probably didn't have those words back then. But it really was just kind of taking step by step. And then what I found, especially in the last few years with Access, is allowing him to take his steps too, you know, because back, even when we had those conversations, it was like, we both have to believe in the same thing and want the same thing and take the same steps. And now it's actually just not like that. It's like, hey, you can have your thing, I'm going to have my thing, and cool if it still is fun to play together. And in that space has totally allowed him to be a part of my thing, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I got to meet hubby in New York and in Florida, and I'm really glad he stuck along for the ride, you know.
Me too.
No, and now he hooks up your sound, and there's all the tech stuff. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, like, how does it get any better, you know? I'm which is like one of our tools that we say, how does it get any better? But it's like, that's an awesome creation for like both of you, you know? And you guys are traveling all over the world. It's, you know, let me ask you, I have a couple other, this is going to bring me to a few other questions that I have for you, Glenyce. Now, to me, through my eyes, I'm just going to say this, is through my eyes, to me, you facilitate on a lot, like almost like on everything, right? And what I know, what pops for me the most is that your talents and abilities with business, there's a difference that you be with business, and I've seen business done differently all over the place. You know, I've taken all kinds of other people's classes, and I kind of almost want to ask you, what is it that you be and do differently? And I know that's not the question to ask, but it's like, it's this thing of like, there's such a way that you be that's so different, and in your presence, I kind of want to ask you, just, is anything coming to you that's popping to say when I say, like, there's a different way that you be with business, and I'd like to know your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. The difference that I see for myself, and it's what I facilitate in a lot of my sessions and classes, is that I actually commune with my business. I don't see myself as my business. I don't see myself as the boss of my business. I see myself as a co-creator of my business with my business. So I'm in communication with my business constantly. It's telling me where it would like me to be, when it would like me to be there, how it would like me to be, what price it would like to be, it's telling me everything. I'm just kind of the voice piece maybe for it, or the action piece for it. And that's really how I see the capacities that I be with business, is through co-creating, instead of where a lot of people do business through push and force.
Yeah. Thank you. And it comes through. And I also, you know, so this, I'm going to share a personal experience with you. My personal experience of you, right, is, you know, when I met you, so to me, you were pretty much already famous out there in the world. So to me, like, I was like, oh, I met you in New York. And it was like, well, I'm going to go meet Glenyce. Am I saying your name correctly?
You are, yes,
okay,
yes.
Glenyce.
It's Glenyce, not Glenephew.
Okay, cool. Every time I say it, I think I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, talking about that. Okay, so when I met you in New York, it was like, I just walked in and it was like I was meeting an old friend. Like, it was just like, oh, I was like, should I just kind of like stand a little bit more? Should I be a little more professional when I meet her? Should I, you know what I'm saying? Like, all that went through my head. And then it was like, it was like you turned around, took one look, and I was just like, oh, it's a total hugs moment, and and then we went and had a trade, and we naturally just hit it off. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm totally hitting it off with Glenyce Hughes. Like, how does it get any better than this? And it's just, I mean, I love talking to you. I like tagging in with you throughout the day. And I have never once felt like I've never once felt like you were too busy for me to, like, it's like there's a lot of power, heavy faders out there that are, I almost have this like sense of like, okay, like a little bit intimidation around. I have never felt that way. Like, like you, to me, it's just like the difference that you be. It's just it's beautiful to be in that presence and have that in my world. And I just want to thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you.
And so now let me ask you some other questions. I see we started this a little bit like late, so I'm going to kind of carry this. Is it okay if we go past 12:30 a little bit?
As long as it's just a little bit. I've got 1:45 that I need to be on another call.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that I'm respecting your time. So something else that you do and facilitate is around entities. I've seen I've seen a lot of but you advertise it in a way of like your brilliance with energies. I guess can you tell us a little bit more about that? And part of this question is that I know that you used to be a medium, and I want to kind of talk a little bit, like I want to talk about that kind of stuff too. Like what are some really cool stories about that?
Cool. Yeah. So a couple things with the entities thing. So once I took Reiki, and then I kind of did many different metaphysical studies for many years. And so mediumship was a very big part of the business that I ran prior to the one that I run now, or I guess prior to what I do in my business now. And it was, entities is more, I just find people kind of run from that word. So earlier this year, well, actually earlier last year, I guess, earlier 2016, we were looking at kind of what is it that I'm truly desiring to facilitate in these classes, that I was using the word entities. And it was actually the word energies, because of the communion that I be with business. I actually be that with everything. I be that with my car and the house and my bank accounts and my body and everything. So when I speak of, kind of energies, it's that. It's actually communing with every energy, whether they have a body or not. And so that's kind of how that kind of came to be born. It's more really about the energies. The other thing that I saw occur and still see occur a lot is people, whether they do it the way I did for many years, which was put entities above themselves, saying, okay, well, I have to ask the entities to do this for me because I can't, I'm not enough, so they have to do it for me. If you want to call on an entity to, to bring you more money or to help you get a parking spot or stuff like that. So I see people do that, or they do the other kind of the exact opposite. Entities are scary and horrible and can get me and can hurt me. And that's one of my targets here is to change that for people, and to know that you actually don't have to call on an entity to get you more money, because actually you can do that. You're the potent one. They can contribute to you, yes, but if you're doing it from that place of they're more and I'm less, it's not going to create more. Or the other, again, the opposite. If people are afraid of them, I would really like them to know that, there's nothing to be afraid of. They're the most potent energy in their life. Each one of us is. So that's really the energy behind the energies, as opposed to entities, is really, let's talk about everything, not just one kind of specific energy. And people do so many crazy things with that. So that's kind of the energy behind the classes that I facilitate now are much more energy directed. In whatever case, I just taught one here in Phoenix. We're here for a week, and it was the exponentializing your capacities with energies. And we talked about everything in that class, whether it was, somebody's body's issue going on, or somebody's money issue, or somebody's work stuff going on, or family stuff. Like, we talked about everything, because energy is everything.
Yeah. Well, and this brings me to my audience poll. So what I did before I no, before these interviews, I posted on Facebook. I said, if you could ask an expert energy healer / whatever, anything, what would it be? Most of the people are curious to know, what's it like when you have a shit day, like when you have a bad day. Like, are you always like, everything is good, how does it get any better than this? Or like, what's it like for a bad day for you? And that's the audience poll.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great question, because I talk, if people listen to my radio show, or if they come to my classes, they know that I talk very openly. There's really nothing in my life that I won't talk about openly. So people kind of get everything about me, and people usually say to me, I'm so glad to hear that you're not perfect. And so a shit day for me, I'm really actually excited to say, Tara, that I don't actually have shit days anymore. Like, I have enough tools, and shit days, shit moments are so uncomfortable for me that I'm willing to use those tools now. It used to be like, yeah, I'd have a day or two, or maybe even 4 days of shit days in a row, and then kind of slowly drag myself out. And now, kind of when I start feeling like the world's against me, or nothing's working my way, or just kind of like a really crappy moment, I might play with it for an hour, maybe even 2, but that's about the extent of it. And then it's like, okay, you know what? What's it going to take to change this? And I know for myself, if I'm in those spaces, there's something else that's going on. So, like, let's say I put out, that I was going to go on a trip, and the trip got canceled, let's say last minute. Let's say a flight got canceled or something, so I couldn't go on with my plan then, and I kind of chose the shit route for a little while. Then I'm aware enough now at this point to look at it and go, and one of my favorite questions within Access is, what's right about this I'm not getting? Like, and then I'll actually commune with those things. Like, okay, so airplane, like, what would the planet be like in 5 years if we got on and we flew, and if we didn't? And, so I'm having conversations with everything around me, knowing that everything is actually working for me. So if suddenly a trip gets canceled, or a flight gets canceled, or something's delayed, that there's very likely something that's going to create more out of it. So it's kind of just recognizing the shit, not making myself wrong when I'm choosing it, and knowing that I've got another choice if I'd like to, and using kind of whatever tools to get out of it. But it's definitely not that it never happens to me.
Awesome. Thank you. So now we're coming up towards the end, and there's always one question that I usually ask every person that has done Energy Transformation Week video. And this is, I'd like to, so picture, let's just go to a place where, like, say you're, where for you in your past, when you were on this like path of coming into your gifts and talents, and moving, stepping into all of that. If there was a point in time where you could have had some sort of outside encouragement, or, you were searching on YouTube looking for videos. What would you say to that version of yourself, standing in where you are now, to give them some sort of encouragement?
That's a great question, Tara. Really what I would say to that version of me would be to know that we can create anything we desire. We really, really can. And it may not feel like right this moment that we can, but we can. And right this moment, if it is that shit moment, or end of the world moment, or I don't want to be here anymore moment, to know that there's actually even just a tiny little choice beyond that. And maybe it doesn't feel like, oh, the world is perfect. Like that might be too big of a jump, but just to know that there's just one little choice you could make. Like what might there be to smile about right now? What might there be to laugh about right now? Who could I talk to right now to change this? What could I go and do to change it right now? And that really, the more that you choose that every moment, the more that you actually are creating everything you desire. And that it isn't just for other people, and it's not just going to work for other people. It's going to work for you too. Just make one little choice, take one little step. Know that the universe has your back every step of the way. You're not in it alone. You're not by yourself. Yeah, that's what I'd say to her.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Like, this is what Energy Transformation Week is all about. This is what, hold on. My heart is just like, whew. And I'm going to probably bring a little bit of tears to my eyes. That was beautiful. And this is why this whole thing is created. So thank you so much, Glenyce. And I'd like to just have you speak on video. Where can people find you and get in touch with you, and like what's your website? And I will put the links underneath this video wherever it's posted. So guys, just look below. But just to hear from you, where can people find you?
Absolutely. And there was a question that you asked earlier that I answered some other questions, so I do want to go back and answer really cool from my mediumship days.
Awesome.
But right now I will just say, yeah, people can find me. Facebook's a great place. You can just find me personally, Glenyce Hughes. You can, I've got one called Glenyce Hughes #AsIfByMagic. I've got one, of course, called Living in the Magic of Possibilities. You can find me there. I've got a webpage, glenyce.net, livinginthemagicofpossibilities.com, and gosh, there's so many places, Instagram and you name it, you can find me. I'm pretty much everywhere, but Facebook is probably where I'm the most active. And then, of course, my weekly radio show on Voice America on the Empowerment Channel, which is
awesome,
full of awesomeness from Access Consciousness and personal stories and stuff too. So, yeah. All right. So yes, let me tell you a cool story from my mediumship days.
Cool.
There was. Of course, as a medium, I was working mostly with people in trauma of grief with the loss of somebody they loved. And there was a woman who came in, and she was in, of course, a lot of grief. Her 21-year-old son had died in a car accident. And she was, in the session, he came through really clearly and really loudly, and the way that they would communicate with me was through pictures and feelings and emotions and thoughts, and they would just use anything they could to get me to talk about whatever it is they wanted me to talk about. And in the reading, I kind of would do similar things. Like I would give them a little bit of validation of, how they died or what they looked like or whatever, so the person knew that I knew who I was talking to, or they knew whatever. And then I would pass on messages. And then usually at the end, I would ask the person who had died, just how are they showing their loved one that they're with them? And so this time was pretty much very similar. And near the end, I just said, can you tell me how you're showing your mom that you're with her? and he showed me a light, and it was outside, and I didn't have the specifics of it, but I just kind of would talk, and I just said, he's showing me a light outside, and he keeps, and I said, I don't really understand, but he keeps turning it off and then turning it on. And he's showing, you know, your husband is with you and you guys are both crying. So to me, it was like they knew it was him, but I wasn't really sure what I was talking about. And she just burst out in tears again. And she said, oh my gosh, she said, when they grew up on the farm, they'd lived there many, many years. And whenever they needed the bulb in their yard light changed, that son would always do it. So Dad would put him in the bucket of the tractor and raise it up to the light, and the son would change it. And so they were actually, the yard light had been out for a month, and the son hadn't got home yet to help Dad. So on the night of their funeral, on his funeral, when Mom and Dad drove in the yard light came on. Right?
Wow. Whoa.
So it was like, you know, and she said, we actually stopped, like the car, they had quite a long driveway, they stopped, and they were both just like, no words, they were just staring at this light that had literally, the bulb had burnt out for a month.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's on.
Whoa.
And she said they both just started to cry, and she said, we didn't know what to say to each other, because the dad had been kind of really against the whole there's life after death type of thing. Yeah. But you can't really dispute that, you know. And this, I think I saw her 8 months after the son's death, and the light was still on.
That is beautiful.
Isn't it?
That is
like
so
that.
Cool. Yeah. It's like, imagine, I'm just going to go to imagine is like, what if the world and people were more open to receiving from the messages that they're giving us all the time? I mean, the amount of magical things that occur. I mean, clearly a bulb that was burnt out is lit for months now. That is really cool. That's just,
yeah. It's so cool. And it was just, you know, there's just story after story, and that's always, you know, I did a lot of teaching of classes of it also, and psychic awareness and stuff like that. And I just would always tell people, you know, just be willing to be a little bit more aware. Like if you'd really like to hear from someone who's died, just be willing to be a little bit more aware. You don't want to believe that every leaf that blows by is them, but you also want to be a little bit more aware, like, you know, because there's the universe has our back, you know, and so people don't like to, you know, our loved ones don't desire for us to suffer at their choice of dying. So there is this kind of element of, hey, I'll show you, I'll help you, but a lot of times people with grief, they tend to miss those. But that son was pretty miraculous in the way that he showed them. I loved it.
Yeah. You guys, so this is what is possible when you link up with Glenyce. Like I said, I'm going to have her links here, and you can get in touch with her in so many different ways. I just say listen to her radio show, and there's so much information, and she gives so much, I mean, shoot, I listen to your radio show like almost whenever I'm driving anywhere, I put it on. There's a beautiful podcast button that you can put that in your phone. And, you know, if this is your first introduction to Glenyce Hughes, definitely click one of the links and just get ready for your whole world to start to change. And I just, you know, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation with me. And I'm just so grateful I'm grateful to know you, and I wonder what else is possible and where else in the world we will meet again.
Yes. Yay. Well, thank you, Miss Tara. I'm so grateful for this possibility. And yeah, I look forward to hugging you soon.
Oh, yeah, me too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.